I've had 3 clients in the last couple of years come to see me who were clearly dying, probably in the last few weeks of their lives. And of the 3, I would say that only one of them was actually completely okay with the fact that she knew she was going to die soon. The other 2 came to see me as a kind of Hail Mary, like just maybe I can get a miracle cure. And as a practitioner, I saw instantly that the two of the 3 were in denial, and that it wasn't my job to say to them, do you realize you're actually dying? Like, you've come to see me a little bit too late. Usually when people come to see me, they have, some health issues they'd like to address, and we can do a lot of healing on that. But if somebody waits until it's this far gone, it's very, very, I've actually never experienced anyone who got a healing at that point when they're that close to death. Somebody once said to me, they're in a dance with Thanatos, which is the god of death in Greek mythology, and she said nobody breaks up that dance. And that's true. We belong to death on some level, or to the end of our lives. And I wanted to come on here today and tell you a little bit about how the subconscious handled these 3 different situations, because it was so incredibly skillful and so incredibly tender. And these 3 people did not want to hear, well, you're going to die, you're learning some lessons, whatever. And so the way the subconscious handled it was really beautiful. So I'm going to start with the wonderful woman who came to see me a couple of weeks ago. I did a TikTok about her, a video about her on March 6th, if you want to go back and look at that. She had stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. And she truly believed that she could heal this. And when she came to see me, she was skeletal. I actually thought she should probably be in hospice. And she did, in fact, enter hospice a few days after our session, and she died a few days ago. So what was really interesting was that they showed her almost immediately a really strong, wonderful soldier who was living in, we think, Scotland after a war. And he had a wound on his chest that he had gotten during the war. And that wound was exactly where her cancer had started. And so we see this sometimes, that people will bring in some kind of trauma that hasn't been healed in that lifetime into this one, and then it ends up manifesting energetically in this lifetime. Now, in that lifetime, he received a lot of trauma. His wife and 2 children were murdered by some kind of hoodlums during the war, and he did go on to remarry and to adopt orphans and to kind of transcend some of his trauma, but he carried it into this life anyway. Now, the reason people do this is often because of a sense of loyalty and love. And so they would feel like it would be a betrayal to have too good a life after they have lost somebody. And it's a way to hang on to love. So in this lifetime, she was shown where the cancer originated, which I think was very healing for her. And for me as a practitioner, how do I handle that? Well, this woman was already doing what people do when they're getting close to death, which is she was traveling between this world and the next. And so I framed it to her as, oh, you're a spirit walker, because she began to describe to me the ways in which her dream life were weaving into this life, and the kinds of things she was experiencing in her dreams or whatever. And so I said, oh, you're a very powerful spirit walker. And she really loved that and embraced that idea. And we talked about the idea that, the idea of death is really something that's sort of made up. And she had learned that through the last few weeks of her spirit walking, that the door between this world and the next is really permeable, and that you can go back and forth. And death is just a word of finality that we give it. So for me, I reframed it that way. I also talked to her about the difference between healing and curing. And I said, I think this is a Carolyn Mace idea, that you can go into a session and be healed from the wound or from the uh, energetic, stamp of the illness, but you aren't necessarily cured from it. Do you see what I mean? So you can be healed but die anyway. So that was something that we talked about. And in the days after her session, she wrote to me multiple times and said, please share my story. I received such a beautiful healing in this session. And she just felt really good about herself. So even though the session did not, quote unquote, save her life, she did receive a lot of healing in the session. So that was one way that the subconscious handled it, was by giving her the information of the source about her wound, and that in some ways the wound was carried into this lifetime with love. So that said something about her character and her spirit. So the second woman I'm going to talk about came to see me, and she was hilarious. She had a white kind of thing on her head. It kind of looked like a turban, but she had lost all her hair. She also had stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, and she did not know anything about hypnosis. She didn't know anything about past life regression. Her friends had gotten together and bought her a session for fun. They'd been giving her all kinds of presents as she was dying. And she was like, I didn't come here for a cure. I just came here for some fun. And it was fascinating. They showed her a lifetime in which she had gone. She was a single woman who never married. And she lived in the mountains in Northern California. And she was a cryptographer during World War II. And she was very important in winning the war, what you call winning the war. But she had a little machine, and she would receive messages, and she would decipher them and send them to Washington to be looked at. And at the end of her life, she received a big award for her role, which had to be anonymous, but she went to Washington and got a big medal for her work. The second lifetime they showed her, she was in her mother's womb. So it was in the beginning of this very lifetime, and they had her feel the deep, deep love and appreciation that both her mother and her father had for her. And they sort of stained her whole body with this love, which was a beautiful, beautiful experience for her, to know that she had been born into this life in so much love. Then the third lifetime they showed her, and I actually did a video about this, so you may have already seen it. They showed her first grade classroom in Texas in the middle of a hot, hot heat wave. And she was able to experience all the kids in the room and the teacher. And she's like, why am I being shown this first grade classroom? And then the recess bell rang, and she went running outside. And as soon as she got outside, she was like, oh, I forgot how terrible the playground is. It was all dry, and all the, equipment on the playground was rusty. And then all of a sudden she got super excited because the trucks were coming that sprayed for mosquitoes. And these trucks came, and they billowed these huge clouds of white pesticide, which I think was DDT, and they would dance in the clouds. She and her friends, it was the only fun they had at school, the only fun they had at recess. And they would dance and play tag and twirl around, and she just absolutely loved it. And when we asked her higher self at the end of the session, why did you show her that lifetime? They said, oh, we thought she might want to know how she got her cancer, that she got it in a state of pure joy. So that the seeds of that DDT had been in her body the whole time. So she went away, I think, feeling truly healed, not cured, but really healed, and got information that she needed to feel better and to move on. Now, I want to also talk about a third person. Now, this woman was perhaps the most difficult. She was really, really in denial about her cancer. And yet, the sort of journey that she'd been on in trying to heal her cancer led her down so many different roads of learning and healing. And it brought her so close to her husband. And she came from North Carolina to see me. And once again, it was breast cancer. And they did not show her how she got the cancer or anything, but what they did was they told us the most beautiful thing I've almost ever heard in a session, which was that they said that she was a very, very powerful healer in this lifetime. And we were like, well, she's the sick one. She's never done any healing work. What are you talking about? And they explained to us that there are two kinds of healers in the world. One are the healers who set out to be healers. They set out to be doctors and nurses and energy workers and whatever else. That those healers are great. But they said the truly magical, mystical, powerful healers on the planet are the ones who get sick, because they sacrifice their own well-being in order to be healers for the people around them, because they teach the people around them so many beautiful lessons of healing and patience and all kinds of things. So they said to her, they were empowering her and saying, you know, you are such a powerful healer. But, you know, she was very grumpy, and I'm looking at my notes. She did not really want to hear it. She was not ready to accept that as something that she could embrace. But there was something that happened in her session that was fascinating, and I've since seen it a couple of times, which is during our conversation before the hypnosis, she was sobbing, but she only cried out of one eye, and she only cried out of her left eye, which in this work, Dolores teaches us the right side of the body when things are going on. The right side is about the present, and the left side is about the past. So she was receiving some kind of healing, because when people cry, the tears literally are healing to the way you release them. That's literally releasing stuff from the body. So that's really what I wanted to say today, is that to give you the idea that you can be healed without being cured, and to know that as hard as it is, when people get sick, the lessons that they use, the lessons that they learn, and the expansion that's able to take place, it doesn't take place as easily when everything is going well. You know, unfortunately, being a human being means that having to learn these very difficult lessons through the body does expand our knowing, and we send that back to source, and we expand the universe. And I have so much respect and so much love for my clients who are sick and who are powerful teachers and powerful healers. So that's kind of it for today. I would love to hear what you all think, and I just want to send a big heart full of love to my client who died a couple of days ago, because she was so full of love and so full of just Christ light. I would call it Christ light. It's really just source light, and she really gave me something, and I just want to say that about her. So much love to you all. I hope you all are doing okay, and I'll talk to you soon.